What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. As many of you guys know, CDC over the last few years has been going through this process of integrating the SNY sensitive needs yard people, which we would generally refer to as PC, protective custody people, and the general population, right? The main line, the environment where all those people either couldn't go because they were in danger or were at and left some way or another. And so they've done that in the lower level yards. And there's signs that they're moving forward in some of the higher level yards, right? Some of the level 3s that they haven't integrated and the level 4s. And there's even some level 2s that are yet to be integrated. And it's taken this approach of actives versus non-actives, right? And kind of created these two new categories. And there's been a lot of videos out about it on my channel, on other people's channels, a lot of good content. I wanted to take a step back though, because I've been having some interesting conversations with people that are currently incarcerated. And they're all on GP yards, right? They're not SNY folks. And as many of you guys know that have been following the channel or follow me on Instagram, a couple of my daughters graduated from the school they were at to another school, right? And I posted about it and I get messages from folks and they're like, man, I hope I have that chance, right? Man, I'm trying to live like you, homie, when my day comes. Now, these are not lifers. There's people from different group segments, right? People from different races and at different prisons that don't know each other. And it got me thinking a little bit and because I'm like, bro, you can do this, right? You can do this, man. You can do better than me. You know what I mean? I'm nothing special, man. You can make this happen. And there's a lot of hope, but at the same time, a lot of discouragement because they're like, man, hopefully I can make it through this without catching more time or whatever. And so, like I said, it got me thinking. I want to take a step back and really look at who we're dealing with here. Now, I've never been on the SNY side. I don't think I'm any better than anybody on the SNY side. It's just not my experience. What I do know is that most of the folks that are on the SNY side used to be on the general population side. And a lot of them were with the business in some form or fashion. A lot of them understand prison and politics and that sort of thing. And went over there for different reasons. It's not my business. But they're still people, right? They're still human beings. And sometimes it gets talked about like, oh, bro, all the inactives, right? Which is an odd thing because you have general population yards with people like Bulldogs and Flores who would not consider themselves inactive. They just don't rock with other people in general population yards. But that's a whole nother thing. You could check out some videos I've done around that. So I won't get into it here. But all these inactives, right? And as if it really doesn't matter what happens to them. Who cares? They're PCs, they're sensitive needs. They couldn't handle it in prison, right? And with the exception of those that have unmentionable offenses, right, in terms of their crimes on the streets, I don't have much sympathy at all for them. But the other ones, I mean, okay, they're there. I don't know why they're there, and I don't really care. But they're still people, right? And they still want to get out of prison, and they still want to connect with family. They still want to breathe the air that I'm breathing. You know what I mean? They want to barbecue, right? Just like everybody else. And same desires on the general population side. So we could talk about how there's different levels of convict all day long. But all these convicts, quote unquote, are people. And they want the same thing. They watch these videos, right? My channel, other channels, and they see folks that were about that life that are now out here living, and man, I want that, right? They see, and it's not the fancy stuff, right? It's not the nice cars or the cool this or the cool that. It's walking through the park. It's pictures of you and your loved ones. It's pictures of a plate of food, right? And I would imagine, I got no reason to think the folks on the SNY side have any less aspirations or dreams or goals than the folks that are in the general population. And sometimes I think we miss that, You know, I was talking to one guy and he's in the general population and he's like, bro, I got these youngsters around here and they're itching for war. Let the guerra begin, right? And he's like, man, I'm trying to tell these dudes because he's been around, you know, and like I said, he's in the general population. He went through the Corcoran, the gladiator fights, and you know, all the stuff, man, just all the stuff of prison. He's been down a couple decades. And so he's telling them, look, this, you don't know what you're in for. You know what I mean? This is war. If this comes, this is war. This is everybody trying to slip out their cups. This is everybody trying to crack their door. This is everybody trying everything they can and signing up for every movement and doing all that they can to get action at the ops, whoever the ops are, right? And plug them, you know, and so he's like, bro, these kids, you know, they think of it like, oh, I'm gonna go out here and whack somebody. Nah, but what if there's 5 ops on the tier and they crack your door? You ain't whacking nothing, most likely. You're gonna get rushed. And the level of awareness and the level of alertness that is required to navigate such a tense and hostile environment. Prison's predatory anyways. The politics for everybody is so damn game goofy right now. I couldn't imagine being back in the joint. But war is war, right? And a lot of these dudes been through war, but a lot of them haven't. A lot of them have not been through war. There's levels of war in prison that I didn't go through, you know, and it was before 96 when I caught my case or when I went to prison. But the level of stress, the level of anxiety, right? The level of preparation, the hopelessness that comes with the idea of these fools are setting me up. CDC is setting me up, right? And you can say what you want about, oh, well, CDC is not forcing anybody to do this or do that, and it's on them. And that's another conversation that maybe we could have another time, but I don't think I don't agree with those folks. I understand the desire to keep a clean name. I understand the pride that comes with that, right? And I also understand that folks are living according to the way that CDC has been structured since before most people incarcerated were even fucking born. You know what I mean? So you're trying to flip a whole normal, not normal, but the way a whole society works, right? You're trying to just flip that on its head and expect everybody to go along with it, you know, with no worries. And I talk to folks that are on the GP side and you know, I asked them, hey man, what do you think about these dudes that their points have dropped or they transferred or whatever, and they're over there on a quote unquote 50-50 yard, which is basically just a big S and Y yard. And they're like, man, we ain't tripping. You know, like if they came back here, yeah, it'd be a problem because of the politics. But honestly, I'm mad at them. I'm mad at them. I don't blame them. I don't blame them for going somewhere where they got better resources, where they're not slammed all the time. I don't blame them for going places where they can, you know, do stuff and where they don't have the same level of stress and anxiety that we have. Man, I don't blame them. People trying to go home. You know, lifers are getting dates. Things have changed, man. People are out to shoot. People trying to go home. Now, are they going to go say that on the yard to their homeboys? Of course not. Right? It's safe to say it to me because I'm not in the mix and I'm not judging folks. But you can hear it in their voice, the sincerity. And again, I imagine the same is true for the SNY side. You know, everybody got families out here, and if not families, people that care about them, right? And they're stressing. Since the integration first started, when this whole thing first started, I was getting interviewed a lot, man, newspapers and TV shows and everything else, and I was voicing my opinion that this is a solution lacking a problem, right? CDC came up with a solution without really having a problem. Yes, they had large populations that had to be separated and this and that, but they did that themselves, and that's a whole nother story. But CDC goes and cries wolf now as if this all happened by surprise and we don't know. No, it didn't. You lowered the bar so damn low, anybody can go to an SNY yard, right? And then got mad that so many people went over there that they wind up clicking up. That ain't on the folks in the general population. That's on CDC. Um, they've been programming in separate atmospheres for a long time. Why'd you have to change it? And I think it's because they got to fill the shoes back up. They didn't talk about doing that until after the end of hostilities, till after people start getting out of the shoe. That's when they were like, hey, since you're going to let all these quote unquote prison gang members and leaders out of the shoe, now let's do another cool thing and just fuck everybody program together. It's a setup. It's been a setup from jump. And but these folks got families and their families are stressing, right? When it first happened, I was having families reach out to me, sending me videos and sending me text messages and stuff that they were hearing from their loved ones inside. There was a dude, he's a wood, been down 20 some odd years and was getting ready to come home, right? And his lady was in the streets and she was protesting against this integration, right? His prison wasn't getting integrated, but other ones were. His points had dropped to a level 2, but he'd been around. They transferred him to another prison that is that was an SMY yard, and said, oh, you're part of the integration. They put him out onto the yard. He got mopped, went to the hole. They took him out of the hole, put him back on the yard. He got stabbed. Went to the hospital, went to the hole. They took him out of the hole again, and he stabbed the first person he saw. Caught a new case. Tell me that's not a setup, right? And it's long before I had a YouTube channel and stuff. You know what I mean? So I've been talking to families involved, and they're reaching out to me. I didn't even know them, but they're reaching out because they would see my name pop up elsewhere, and they were like, "Oh shit, maybe somebody that's on the same page as us." And I wished I could have done more to help them. I'm just a regular dude, man. But I've been hearing the stress from families, and like, man, what are we gonna do? What are they gonna do? How do we have these conversations with our loved one? How do you tell your husband or your son or your brother, look, man, just lay it down, when they've done all this time without laying it down? And a lot of them, best believe, want to, but they just can't see themselves doing that. And I don't blame them. Like I said, I'd have responded the same way as anybody on a GP yard. I'd have responded the same way as they are. So I understand it. I'm not encouraging people in what to do. Everybody got to make whatever decision for them best suits them and their family. But I just want all of us, and all this talk of the war and the guerra and this group has got an upper hand on that group, and why are they only putting a couple of these dudes? They should put these dudes on this yard, and actives versus inactives, and there's this unity over here and this separation over there, and what's going to happen? And those are all, those all can be interesting conversations, right? So I'm not putting anybody down for those conversations, but there is another conversation. And I hope that folks, when you hear this stuff, or when you hear little updates or whatever, that you keep in mind, this is not a video game, right? This is not some abstract thing that's happening. Those are real people, just like me, and frankly, just like a lot of content creators on YouTube, right? That were in prison. We did our time, and no matter how somebody did their time or didn't do their time, or where they did their time, or I'm all that shit to the side. We know what it's like to be locked up, and it's not cool. It's not fun. It's not healthy. And we know what it's like to want to come home. And these dudes are dealing with those same stresses right now. And so, sure, there's youngsters behind the wall that, oh yeah, man, I'm ready to go. I'm geared up. I'm ready. Don't let that shit fool you. The guys that have been around, and even some of the guys that haven't been around, yes, they're prepared to do what they got to do, but they're not eager for this shit, man. They're not looking forward to it. They're still people. They're still human. They don't want to fuck their dates off. They don't, a lot of them, they ain't never booked nobody. They ain't never put in no work like that. They ain't never shed no blood, right? So they're, it sounds good before you do it. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of people had a banger on the streets, and then it came time to use it. Sounds good. It's a little bit different when you got to exercise some finger muscles, right? And war and stabbing people and booking people sounds good. But if you ain't never done it, just you don't know if you necessarily set up for it. And so that's it, man. I don't want this to be a long video. I just want all of us to try to have a little bit of compassion. And this is not about, again, all them S and Y dudes, they're all fucking weenies, they're punks, they locked it up, they got whacked, they debriefed, they this, they that. I don't know everybody's story. It is clear by my being on YouTube and whatnot. I don't judge people for that stuff. You know, everybody's been in their own situation and they've made the choices that they felt was best when they were in that situation. If we were in prison, would I judge that? Absolutely. But I'm not. And thank God I'm not. And I haven't been in a long time. And I don't put myself in positions to have to go back. So I don't have to live by those rules. I can recognize the humanity in other people, even if I wouldn't have maybe behaved like them or this or that, or but even that, a lot of that's ego, right? Bro, I would have never done that. Okay. It's everybody says they're never gonna lock it up until the moment that they do, right? And so it I don't know, man. I don't know the deal on a one-to-one, but I don't judge. They're still people. And I'm allowed to think that way and say that because I'm a civilian. You know what I mean? I'm not pushing a line. And so I have empathy for them too. I don't want them cats to get cut up. I'm not rooting for one side or the other. I'm rooting for people to come home. I'm rooting for people to get to have kids. And if they already have kids, to get them, watch them do what I get to watch my kids do. You know, I'm rooting for everybody in prison to be able to come home and barbecue for their family, right? To be able to come home and sit and watch a movie with their lady or their dude, with, you know, however you get down, right? That's what I'm rooting for. And I think we all should. If we're being honest, man, we all should. Because what's the alternative? We rooting for hella people to get whacked and die? Come on, man. That ain't cool, right? If that's how you think, man, I'll critique your own thoughts. You know, like that's not cool, man. That's not gangster. That's not nothing, right? And I think sometimes we can get wrapped up in this versus that and that versus this without taking a step back and thinking, what's the implication of this, right? And I'm not talking about content. I'm talking about people like you and me, the individuals, in all different parts of life. You know, we can, oh yeah, yeah. Pause. What does that actually mean? How does that play out, right? And is that what you would hope for people? Not me, man. Like I said, except for a small class of others. And so, look, man, it's the Homie Hangout. Help others move in excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it, and help your community because they need you. And check out some of the other content. Hopefully, you can still hear me, but I'm gonna cut it off since my neighbor's gonna go ride his bike.